You're listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out REIARadio.com.
Basically, I had talked about helping getting your kids involved in real estate and like my perspective of it. And then it inspired other kids in that group. And so they started doing stuff with their parents, and then they started doing, their own things. And then this 12-year-old went and he flipped his house, and he has a
12-year-old?
Yeah.
Was it a Lego house?
No.
Oh.
It was a house.
Okay. Wow.
My lesson was definitely you always have to make sure that you're a little bit conservative with your money, because there's always going to be something. There's going to be something that you don't realize. My dad, he's working his butt off trying to set a good life for me, and I'm trying to do the same for my kids, even though they're not here yet. It's like, okay, right now it's setting it up for me. Then once I have a kid, if I decide to, it's like, well, then I want to set that up for them too.
This episode is brought to you by PropStream.com.
PropStream is one of the most trusted real estate data software solutions. PropStream benefits all real estate professionals. You can find properties and contact homeowners on the go with PropStream's mobile app. We offer free academy courses tailored to real estate investors and agents. Take advantage of our live webinar demos to learn the software and scale your real estate business. Visit www.propstream.com and sign up for your 7-day free trial to get more leads and grow your business.
Welcome to REIA Radio, episode 144 with Ryleigh Eckles. Back for a second time. And Ryleigh, I don't know if you are aware, but you were here exactly 100 episodes ago on episode 44.
That makes me feel so special.
I mean, you should. I mean, that was back in what, August of 22?
I think it was June of 2022. So almost 2.5 years ago, 100 episodes later. This is exciting because 2.5 years of your life have gone by, which represents a large chunk of your life, unlike Ted, who is really old, which we've already talked about before we hit record. We'll just leave that part
And if I'm
out.
really old, he's even older.
No, yeah. Apparently, we're the same age.
Leave your thoughts in the comments below.
Yes,
we'll see what the public thinks.
Ryleigh, I mean, seriously though, I feel like you were here in episode 44 as a young girl with your dad, and now
I'm still not a young girl today.
and now you come in as a graduate from high school, somebody that's had great accomplishments, and here today as a young woman. And an adult. It's fun to see the transition from being in the podcast, coming to the REIA groups, being a keynote speaker at our events and other events. I mean, the accomplishments that you've done in such a short amount of time it's just awesome. And I think that there's so many people that listen to this, especially young ladies like my daughter and other people's daughters that listen to this that look up to you. And I think that you get a lot of that.
Oh, yeah. I've had people come up to me and say, like, oh, you should mentor my daughter or son. And I've just recently, we were at a Husker game, and I got that exact thing. And so I'm waiting for them to respond, to text me right now to set up, like, a little mini meeting. But I've been told to, like, sell courses on, like, what I do or anything like that. So, my backstory has been said, like, multiple times. And I can't even believe, like, it's just so crazy how much has, like, gone past in these last, 8 years of my life?
I think it was I think it was around COVID. We were gonna do a workshop, and it's gonna be for younger potential investors that were in high school, but COVID ended up shutting it down, and we were gonna do that with somebody else. But I mean, maybe we should revisit not necessarily that, but you running a monthly group that's just really focused on, younger investors, that under 22 year type of group.
Yeah, I've had also 20-year-old realtors come up to me and say that we should do like a realtor focused under 20 group or whatever, but I don't really feel like we should do it that exclusive. I think investors or even financial tips that we don't learn in school is another good kind of thing.
Yes. That would be actually awesome. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think the population overall that goes through the educational system and junior high school and everything is really unprepared for real life stuff. So what is a mortgage? Like, how do you handle personal finance? And I know some larger high schools have more options for classroom choices or subject choices, but like small schools especially, you're really limited on what you can actually learn. And kids get out and they're like, how do I do a tax return? Like, what is a mortgage? Like, what are investing options?
Yeah, well, even my school was big, and we had we didn't even have those kind of options either, and we had a lot more options than most other schools.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm part of this national group, and they've already kind of started doing this kids kind of tycoon like workshop thing. That they kind of started building financial knowledge and teaching those kids those things. So I thought that was pretty cool, but we could do one locally. That's a good idea.
Definitely brainstorming that.
What's the national one that you're a part of? What's it called?
It's 7-figure flipping.
7-figure flipping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And who runs that?
Bill Allen.
Bill Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He still have a podcast? I've listened to some
He
of
does
his
have
stuff.
a podcast. I've been on it, I think 2 times so far. One with my dad, and then the other one by myself.
Okay.
Talking about basically the first one I think was more targeted towards us, and then maybe a flip that we did. I can't really remember right now, but then the other
You're doing
one,
so many podcasts. I mean, it just all blends together.
Yeah.
no, that was not meant to be like that. But the other one was based on my flip that I did when I was 16. So,
which we are definitely going to dig into on that because it's an amazing story. But so for those of you not familiar with Ryleigh's story or where it began, we aired an episode number 44. So way back in the archives of REIA Radio, we invited Ryleigh and her dad, who is Nate Eckles, as we all know him here in the Omaha area. Nate's a great dude, and he's done a lot in real estate investing. Was a W-2 employee for a long time. Eventually grew in his business on the side enough to quit his job and focus on real estate full time. Ryleigh has since kind of taken flight in her real estate investing and real estate overall career, and has grown in leaps and bounds, and this is her story. So that's why we wanted to invite her back today and kind of find out what's been going on in the last 2.5 years in her life. And it's an amazing story. So, tune into that, obviously. But if we could pick up, so the episode number's 44. If you, for those of you catching us that aren't familiar with it, tune back into that. So in talking with you off air, Ryleigh, we found out you have some pretty major things that have happened in the last 2.5 years. And I guess if we could go kind of in order here, what was the first thing since you were on the podcast last that was a major milestone in your real estate career so far?
So the first thing was the flip. That was a very huge milestone because not only did, when I did flips with my dad, I was able to do a flip by myself as a 16-year-old. I mean, of course, he had to sign the paperwork, and he had to help me a little bit and make sure that we didn't go in the hole with money. But other than that, I called everybody I knew for contractors. I contacted every wholesaler. I contacted a realtor. I felt very in control in that project because I was. But that was the big thing that happened since the last podcast.
Okay, can I ask you a question on this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I feel like a lot of times women generally talk that they're not commanding respect when it comes to assigning the contractors. They're not, I've heard this from numerous times. I'm not just pulling this out of the air, but also, being somebody that's younger, at the time you're 16 years old, what kind of struggles did you have with, aligning contractors and everybody to take you seriously as a young woman? That obviously knew what you're doing, but you had to prove it to these people. Did you already have relationships built?
Yeah, so the building relationships at a young age was very, very helpful for me because the contractor that I used is part of the group with the local group that you host. So that helped a lot because
Who
respected
who was
me.
that?
Brad Bader.
Brad Bader. Okay.
Yep, he respected me, and although he was a little bit more expensive, he made it very easy, like a lot easier, the process, because he was available when I wanted him, which most contractors, it's hard to get them to get on the job because they've got so many other projects, and even with those other projects, he still made time for mine. And he also project managed it, so I didn't have to go to my project, multiple times a week to make sure everything was getting done because he made sure that happened.
Now, just to real world this, you're in high school at the time, right?
Yeah,
While
so-
this is going on. So you were in your junior year?
I was in junior year, and it was about winter too, and I was also wrestling. So, and it was about the time where wrestling really picked up, because in the middle of season, that's when you start thinking about, you have to go to state and all this and this and that, And winter's not a fun time for anybody to flip a house. And
Well, really, it's no different than somebody having a W-2 job.
yeah.
And then trying to do this on nights and weekends.
So I was just thinking while she was talking that this is the ultimate trump card that you can lay on somebody's argument that says, oh, I don't have enough time for that. I have this and that going on. I have a job. I have kids and whatever. Like, who we're talking to right now is a 17-year-old real estate investor, licensed agent, that flipped her first house. We'll call it. Hey, asterisk by it, but we'll remove that later. But you did something that a lot of people have talked about for years and years that are grown adults, right? So they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to flip a house one day, and they keep coming to meetings and they don't do anything.
Analysis paralysis.
And exactly.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to call out people that are listening to this that says, like, get off your ass, because if somebody that has a full day of going to high school and then has wrestling practice and then has homework and then has
friends that I wanted to
and then
hang
has
out
a
with.
life, right? Okay. Please continue. But
My
I just
dad-
wanted to call that out.
No, yeah. My dad was definitely like my accountability buddy during the whole thing, because he was like, well, what's your priorities? Like, friends or this house? It's costing you, he would ask me, how much is it costing you a day? And I'd be like, $44. Like, so that was very helpful. So getting somebody that's accountable, that helps you keep accountable in your life, is very, very important.
Okay, I want to backtrack. How did you find the deal?
So like I said, I found a list of wholesalers, and I contacted each and every one. I got some FU texts. I got some, no, I'm not in the business anymore texts. And then, others like, I've got some things, and then what's your buy box kind of thing. And I would tell them, but then they just wouldn't bring up anything. And then I found one wholesaler who, had a house in Fremont, which is 30 minutes away.
You didn't even do a local flip. You did one outside of it.
Yeah. And I didn't even have a car yet at the time. Yeah. My dad had to drive me. So at the end of my flip,
I was
had
thinking
to
like Uber driving.
Well-
Uber tried me in my job site here.
yeah, I had to pay him mileage money at the very end of my flip.
I love this.
I do too, actually. I mean, because like on the one hand, I was thinking to myself, like, I have two daughters, and one's 16, one's 12. It's hard because as a parent, you want to be you want things to be easier for your kids than it was for you, but at the same time, they're not going to necessarily learn hard lessons that are the ones that stick if you don't give them a little bit of a hard time, or like a little bit of a way that where they can make their own mistakes and learn from it, and not make it easy for them, because you're like, oh, don't worry about it, I'll just drive you out there. That'd be the easy button.
Oh yeah.
But he's like, no, you got to pay me mileage.
Oh yeah.
I love that. Nate's a hard ass.
Yeah.
Okay, and then next question is financing. Like, did Daddy give you money, or did you
No.
go finding your own money?
No. So.
And I say that specifically in because there's a lot of people that I'm sure.
Yeah.
that
No,
said
my
it-
dad is not rich enough to give me enough money to buy my own property.
And I say that because there's a lot of people that would be like, oh, I wish Daddy would have paid me money to go do this.
I've had a lot of critics, especially in the mastermind, the group, the 7-figure, because they think that, oh yeah, well, your dad does this, like, he gave you money, obviously.
Yeah,
or,
so they're saying big deal, like.
Yeah. I mean, of course he mentored me my whole life, but it's like, the money came from a private lender.
Like hard money.
Oh, and I even asked you for hard money.
True. Yeah. And she shopped me.
I
No, I'm
did.
kidding. No, and I don't blame you a bit. I mean, that's what you should do.
business.
It was a little bit expensive, but
Yeah.
for me, But I was also starting out with no money. But
Okay.
so I got 100% of the deal.
And rehab.
Yep, in rehab with 8%. Very, very cheap because...
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
in this
but this was
environment.
only for a one-time thing. He didn't say that he was going to do this any other time. But yeah, he loaned me money and...
Uncle Owen wouldn't do that, huh?
No.
Okay.
And this is not a family member. This was a private lender. So...
And this is important because I really wanted to focus on that. Because there's people that say, besides I'm not having the time, I don't have the money. And here you are, you don't have the money.
Yeah, and kind of not the time, but I made time,
So, okay, but there's payments involved with this. So how were you making those payments?
I mean, that one was part of the business. The business was kind of paying that because I didn't have any money. Like, I didn't have a job before this. So our business, our company was paying for that. So that was a little bit of the help from my dad that I needed. But then the flip after the end paid that money back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was essentially like your partners with your dad. He agreed to fund the operating expenses of the business plan you had for that house, and then he was repaid in full for whatever he contributed to it.
Yep, and then I still made profit on the house as well. I made about $22,000 on this flip in profit, so I was able to pay some of that back to my dad, and then also have that in my pocket. So then I paid for a car with that. Yes, I knew that was going to be your next question. With that money, I paid for a car, and I didn't get an expensive car. I got a $3,000 car, $4,000 car that had a lot of issues, but it was still a car.
Now, was this the same car that I test drove?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
No, this is actually hilarious. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Because
yes.
you forgot about that, didn't you?
I
could tell by your face.
I did.
So my daughter just turned 16, right? And we were looking for a car for her, and this was me, and not my wife was not yet involved in this conversation, which leads me up to where I'm about to go with this. And so I was like, whatever, like we're just gonna probably drive around my small town and get her learn the ropes, and when she gets her license, then maybe we'll get a little bit more, reliable car or whatever.
Yeah.
And, Jen got involved in the conversation. She's like, what? No, that's not how this is going to go. Like, we're going to drive on, she has to drive on the interstate, and she has to go to school and this and that. And so Nate and Ryleigh and I went out to lunch. It was actually your dad's birthday that day, if I remember right. Yeah. We went to lunch, and then he's like, randomly, he's like, hey, Ryleigh's got a car. And I'm like,
we're selling the car, yeah.
And so I test drove it, and ended up being like, it was very close, but it was like just old enough, didn't have backup cameras, like some of those things. As a dad now, you're kind of like, and my daughter's a little scary to ride along with.
Yeah, my dad always told me your first car's never gonna have a backup camera, which it didn't. So
yeah. So anyway,
but that was funny because
So what was your first car?
It was a Toyota RAV4, but it was like a 2005. So it's already like pretty old. It was reliable. It just had issues that I didn't want to pay to fix up.
Sure.
So the car ran fine, and my aunt owns it now. So and she fixed it up a little bit, and it runs. It's just not like my preferred car.
Yeah. Nice.
Now you're still sitting here with like $17,000. What do you do with that money? I mean, because if I had that type of money and I was 16,
go out and buy a Mustang.
I probably would have, but I would be like, oh my gosh, I gotta spend this at that age. So
yeah, right now it's in my savings. Most of it is going towards schooling right now for my license, which we could
your real estate license.
Yes.
Okay, Ryleigh. I know that before we go on in your story, that your failing forward is specifically about the house, your flip. So how about we get into today's Failing Forward. And this Failing Forward is brought to you by JM Real Estate Capital.
Hi, it's Rob, JM Real Estate Capital. We're the money guys that you need to know for all your real estate investments. Talk to us. We can do what your local bank can't or won't do. We don't have millions. We have trillions with a T to lend. 844 we close, or go online, jmrecapital.com. That's jmrecapital.com. JM Real Estate Capital. Smart solutions for the real estate investor.
And how about you tell us about a learning lesson that you had in that property that, probably costed you a few dollars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the flip, I thought it was going to be, paint, carpet, whatever, just a cosmetic flip. No, there was plumbing issues that I didn't know about, which if anyone, has flipped a house, that there is always going to be just that one thing that you did not put in the budget at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
unless you buy condemned houses that need absolutely everything.
Yes. My lesson is that you always have to be prepared. So the house had plumbing issues that were very extreme, so extreme that they ripped up the whole yard and went out to the street.
So new sewer line. New sewer line.
New sewer line. And this house had this issue for quite a long time because the plumber that came out to, or the excavator or whoever came out to, who was going to fix it, came out, inspected it, and said, "Oh, I've already seen this house before." He didn't even have to run a line down. He knew he'd already done it before. They just didn't fix the problem before they sold it to me.
Oh, and there's no disclosures because you bought it through a wholesaler.
Yep. And I don't even know if he knew about it either, So that kind of pushed the budget a little bit.
What was the price tag on the cracked sewer line that you had to replace?
I would have to, I don't even know.
You think, was it over $5,000?
Yes.
Yes.
Because they had to rip up the whole yard into the street.
So,
it was a lot of money.
So you might have $30,000 or $40,000 check if it wasn't for that.
So we went and we had to do that. But my lesson was definitely you always have to make sure that you're a little bit conservative with your money because there's always going to be something. There's going to be something that you don't realize. The house definitely just looked big picture. I just thought, paint, carpet, whatever. It was not at all. So
yeah, I know that every time I'm walking the house, I'm looking for galvanized pipes.
Yep.
That's always a key thing. I'm looking at the electrical box. Mm-hmm. I'm looking to see if it has a Federal Pacific electrical box because I automatically know that it needs to be a new electrical box replacement at that time. Close look at the roof, foundation inspection.
Oh yeah.
Windows, how old they are because that expense can kind of destroy your budget really fast.
But with plumbing, it's hard to really inspect that unless you get someone out there before.
Sewer scope, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's sewer scope. And one other key thing is if you're walking through a house, usually what you're going to find is there'll be what it's called a main stack for those of you that are not familiar with it, but it's basically where all of the wastewater goes in the house. Typically, it's going to flow to one spot. It'll flow down basically a 4-inch stack pipe that runs from the floor where it goes out to the street up to the roof where it goes out the roof to vent it. They used to be made out of cast iron, and now they're PVC, which is plastic.
Ours was cast iron.
So what happens over 50, 60, 70 years or longer, that cast iron starts to get corroded and brittle, and it starts cracking. And you may get bad odors in the house. That happens a lot. So you could have, there's one thing, which is a cracked sewer line, which that really sucks. And it's probably the worst thing that can happen if you're flipping a house or buying a house. And another bad thing, though, is the main stack could be bad. If you're walking through a house and you go in the utility room and you see cast iron up top, right? So it pokes up through the subfloor, and then you see PVC below it. You can't have that. That's a code violation. You can't have plastic below the cast iron. It has to be vice versa, or the whole thing has to be PVC or cast, right? So big expense on both of those.
Oh, yeah.
One more than the other. And the thing about sewer lines is you just don't know. It could be a couple $1,000 fix because it's just barely outside of the house itself, and you just dig down and replace a little section of it, and the rest of it's good. Or it could be the whole thing is just Swiss cheese, and it's been dumping into the yard for years. Yeah. And you got to redo the whole thing out to the street, and it could be $15,000, $20,000, more than that. It depends on how big the yard is, or where it connects to the street.
Or if you got to cut through the basement.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the worst. Is when it's under the actual basement floor. So you have to jackhammer the whole floor up, replace all that, and it could be both. So just word to the wise, get a sewer scope if you're ever unsure, or just, you're really concerned about that aspect of it and the risk involved. So
that $150 will go far, far away.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. All right, so you had a plumbing gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
And that hurt a little bit. What did you learn about that? If you were going to do this all over again, what kind of lesson?
Get that scope.
Yeah, get a sewer scope. And so is what Ted said accurate? Did it cost $150, $200, something like that?
Yeah, it was very, yeah.
Yeah, we're small price to pay for what you get out of it. Because
yeah, well, and especially since it was hard to find somebody to come out there and work on the project because it was all the way in Fremont, and you could only get so many people who go out there. I mean, it doesn't seem that far for some people. Like, for us, it's 30 minutes, whatever. But for companies, it's like sometimes they don't want to go out there.
There was nobody local, huh?
No, which is weird because Fremont's not that far.
I've noticed that about small towns that are within easy driving distance of big cities or bigger cities, where it's like it takes you literally 30 minutes to drive from one side of town to the other side of town, but the company is unwilling to drive 30 minutes outside of town the other direction just because it's outside of town. Exactly. It's like, what? You're still driving 30 minutes, dude. What does it matter? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense.
We find that more and more now that we're like scaling outside of Omaha, you know.
Now, where are you guys scaling at?
Well, we've been all the way to smaller towns in Iowa.
Like Malvern, Iowa?
No, like Atlantic.
Atlantic, okay.
Yeah, like really kind of far.
Now, why Iowa? What makes you go there?
I don't know, just there's a lot of other opportunities. Like, we're not trying to stay close and confined in Omaha. We just want to scale outward a little bit and help people who maybe people don't want to go out that far. Like Nebraska City we've been going to. Yeah, that's basically where we're going.
Now, what kind of numbers are you seeing, like in your local market, which is happening in Omaha, versus like your outside market, which is like the smaller towns? Are you seeing different types of returns, better returns?
It depends, especially because for some of those smaller towns and stuff, there are times when the situation is kind of special because there are times when people want to go to that small town for a specific reason. Like maybe there's a big company, or not big company, but like a factory over there. And so people outside of the country want to move down there to get jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of factors that play into that.
But what about returns, though? Are you seeing better profits?
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I think the big risk about investing in a small town is going to be if they have one large employer, like a lot of small towns do. They may have like let's say Oakland, Iowa, which is close by here. My wife's from there. They had a meat packing plant there, which employed a lot of people. A lot of people from out of town moved there just to work there, and so the town itself, experienced a lot of economic benefit from it because they got additional tax revenue. They got income from people going in and spending money at convenience stores and grocery stores and all that are working there, and then they shut the plant down.
Yeah.
And then guess what? Like, there's a lot of not just employees that were affected, but the ancillary businesses that enjoy the revenue from those employees themselves that are now gone. That's the big risk about investing in small towns is like, you may have one big employer that's great while they're there, but all of a sudden things could change, and maybe it's a tax code change that we're at risk of every 4 years. It seems like 4 to 8 years, and then they could cut all kinds of tax benefits, and then the employer's just like, well, guess what? This isn't worth it anymore, so they bail. Generally speaking, it's reasonably stable in a small town.
Yeah.
They don't grow and have wild swings either way or a declining
That's why I kind of said it like that, because definitely it's not like a huge gap. It's just like different opportunities, I guess.
Yep.
And now, are you guys flipping in those towns? Or are you holding?
Kind of mixing. We always mix wherever we go. It just depends on the situation. Because, like if a flip doesn't go the way that we want it to, there's always buy and hold the option too. So. Okay,
so before we hit record today, you talked about kind of 3 pivotal moments that have happened since the first time we talked and now. What was number 2? So the first one was the big flip.
Oh, yeah. The second one was I'm going to be on a TV show.
No big deal. I mean,
how many
Ted's got one in the works. Ted's got a couple in the works.
3 or 4 probably at least. I turned down another 3 or 4.
Hey, with your radio voice, I feel like it would be good to have you as a narrator or something.
We have faces for radio. Faces and voices. But yeah, I don't think we're getting any TV calls anytime soon. But what happened with that? What in the hell?
Okay. So, a few years ago, I had I don't know if this was before the podcast or after.
It's probably because of the podcast. You can say it. Yeah.
Of course.
We're kind of a big deal here.
Oh, yeah, of course. No, my dad and I were speaking on stage at the national group. We spoke on stage there a few years ago.
What national group?
The 7-figure one.
Okay.
We spoke on stage a few years ago talking about how to get your kids involved in real estate. And I was like one of the only kids that was actually there. I think I said a little bit about this in the episode 44. But basically, I had talked about getting your kids involved in real estate and like my perspective of it. And then it inspired other kids in that group. And so they started doing stuff with their parents, and then they started doing, their own things. And then this 12-year-old went and he flipped his house, and he has
12-year-old?
Yeah.
Was it a Lego house?
No.
Oh.
It was a house.
Okay. Wow.
And because his dad is very successful in the group, but he went out and did it. And I'm like, this guy's 12 years old. And then he spoke on stage, and I'm like, I gotta do something. Like, there's no way that I can't do this on my own, So then the house happened. That's why I flipped a house at 16, because I was like, I didn't know I had competition. I'm going to these things. It's like my competition were 20-year-olds. It wasn't, and everyone thought that was very, very young, which it is. So that happened, and then
I just can imagine my son Carson going out and flipping the house next
yeah,
year.
I know.
Like,
yeah, my daughter's 12 right now. I'm like, she rolls her eyes whenever I talk about real estate now.
I know.
Like,
So he got inspired by my speech, and then went out and did that. And then like a couple other kids got involved, and then they started doing like wholesale deals and flips and everything. And then it's just all become like bouncing off each other's ideas. And then that's when the kids like mastermind kind of came from that. And then they decided, well, there's so many kids doing this now, let's start a TV show. So someone in the group had connections, and his kid was flipping houses. He's done, I think, maybe his 6th deal now today, and he's 14. And yeah, so these younger kids.
Can you give us his contact?
So Bill started partnering up, and they started funding stuff. But this was like a year and a half ago, maybe. So this was when I was like 16, turning 17 kind of thing, where I was still considered a kid. And now they're doing a TV show that's called Kids Who Flip. But I'm not considered a kid really much anymore. So my role in this show is basically to go around and look at the other kids' flips and stuff. So it'll be pretty cool. I can't say much more than that. I can just say that it'll be a show about kids who flip, So
you're like the older consultant
kind of, yeah.
that they bring in.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You've been around the block.
Exactly. That's a great way to put that. I was trying to think of a way to put that. Yeah, that
is so crazy to hear, like the 17-year-old's aged out of, like,
I know.
Oh no, you're not a kid anymore. You're technically 17.
Yeah, and I'm turning 18 during the shooting by the end of this month. So
that's so funny. So okay, so your life is going to be a lot different, probably.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Yeah.
That's why we got you on now.
Oh yeah,
because we knew that
it all started on REIA Radio.
That you
yeah.
That you'd never be coming back to the podcast after you hit it big.
What do your friends think of this? I'm really curious in that I have a 16-year-old daughter and I have a 12-year-old daughter, and like I know that social circles could have a lot of influence on a young woman. Like what do they say about it? Are they like, okay, I don't want to hear about this anymore?
I get some different responses. Some of them are like, I don't really get what's going on. Some of them are like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I knew Ryleigh Eckles before she came the Ryleigh Eckles,
She's like a Kardashian.
Yeah. I have some people, I don't know, I just get different looks,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't follow the straight line, though.
No.
You don't, everything from doing the flip or doing a show, going to conferences.
Being a wrestler.
I did
as a woman or girl.
Yes.
Bodybuilding as a teenager.
Yeah. I have struggled with like trying to fit in with a lot of my peers, because I feel like from the age of 10, my peers were 50-year-old, dudes doing real estate.
Like Owen?
Yeah. I'm 49, thank you.
We're bringing this age thing back again.
Ryleigh and I have been friends since she was 15.
Don't say it like that. That doesn't
weird.
sound good.
No,
I
thought you were acquaintances from afar.
I'm just kidding. No,
I thought you were directly referencing.
No. No, the stereotypical, I'm a real estate dude.
Yeah,
like Owen.
Like Owen. No, but it's just been kind of hard to fit in a little bit, because I feel like I had to mature faster than a lot of my peers. Not just directly related to real estate, like home life and stuff. But yeah, that's just been a big kind of challenge for me too. But now that I'm starting to grow into a younger adult, it's like this is starting to become normal, you know? So, yeah.
And what about your mom? Like, how is she taking all this?
She's like, I think when I told her that I flipped a house, she did not really understand, I don't think.
Oh, you told her after it was done?
Yeah. Well, because she's not really, like, in with all this stuff. I mean, my parents are divorced. Like, I don't know if she gets it, really, my involvement in it. But
she gets it now.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
But, I mean, she had to be like, she'd have been like, oh, my little girl. And then you're like, oh, you're doing this construction project. And,
well, yeah.
And you got wrestling, you got this and this. I mean, she had to, like, it's like, what is going on here?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Hey, I want to explore something for a second. So I'm thinking back to when I was a kid. Ted, I don't know if you share this viewpoint or not, but like I always felt, and maybe this is every kid, but I always felt like I was just way different in how I saw things than a lot of my peers or kids my same age. And you were mentioning that when you were growing up, your friends were like, I don't really understand it, but good for you type thing. Mm-hmm. You know, other kids are like, what are you doing, nerd? Or, you know, like, what's this real estate stuff?
Yeah.
And like, because, you know, kids default to, like, not all do, but the ones that are aggressive will say, like, if you're different, that means you're dumb, or you're, like, they find a way to ostracize you. And I guess where I'm going with this is, how much of an influence do you think, and this is no, like, I don't want to give overdue credit to your dad or your mom or anybody like that, but what do you think about nature versus nurture with regards to what you become eventually? Do you think that you would have, if Nate wasn't your dad and you were just operating through high school, like, how much influence do you think he had on what you ended up doing in real estate right now?
That's kind of a difficult question because my brother also, it's kind of cool that we can experiment a little bit because my brother was growing up in the same exact environment.
Yeah.
And he is a renter. Like, he doesn't really know any of this stuff. He didn't really get into any of it like I did. So, I mean, he did move out, like, before my parents divorced. And so this all kind of started happening when my dad and I were together. Like, he was a single dad and I was his only kid kind of thing. So that does, I feel like that plays a huge part of it, but I feel like my brother could have done the same maybe if he was in the same environment as me. I really think your environment changes the way that your future I think it does shape your future a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
Okay, this is maybe a leap, but I have a sister, and she's 3.5 years older than I am. And we were raised by the same parents, same environment, small town. We didn't have a lot of variability in you know, what we do, but we could not be more different.
Yep.
You know, and I look at my two daughters, and one of them is like, could not care less about real estate or business or any of the stuff that I'm, you know, passionate about. And I have another daughter that's like curious and asks questions. And it's weird when you're a parent because you don't want to force things on your kids.
No.
And like try and, you know, like you run the risk of scaring them off or just like burning them out on that. Ted, I can tell you want to say something.
Well,
here.
you know, I think that you are a natural entrepreneur, and I think that by your parents or your dad being in the industry, it gave you, you know, a line to follow.
Yeah, I don't really like the nature versus nurture question, only because, like, when I took psychology class, they had an experiment with twins or something, and they like had the same stuff without even growing up in the same household. So I'm like, oh, this question is so hard to answer because it's like there's so many different examples and factors and everything that goes into it. So with your daughters and my brother and just everything.
I think, I think the point I'm trying to make is, though, that you are a natural entrepreneur. It's in you, right?
Yeah.
You would have found a different path, but probably had the same results in the end.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been real estate. It would.
Yeah, I feel like
it'd been something else. And I think that, you know, when you look at, you know, kids, or, you know, you were just a natural, you know, in your abilities and wanting to learn more and explore and ask the questions. That's who you are. That's in your genetics.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's why, but your sister just didn't have that genetic. So, you know, I think we just all follow the path. But when there's somebody that's an influencer or, you know, in your life, or a coach in your life, that's how you start following.
It is the people in your life that really, really affect what you do.
Yeah, I just think about that all the time because both my parents were entrepreneurs, right? Like my dad, his whole life, that's all he's done. He's owned his own business, worked hard. But I didn't want anything to do with that. He never, ever pressured me to, like, take over the family business or whatever. And it was, you know, we're in a small farming community, and he did bulldozing work. He did a lot of hard work and a lot of really good work for people around there. Made a great living at it. And he never forced it on me, and I regret not asking more questions about it and participating more in it, because I feel like as a dad now, I would appreciate that if my kid did that, and I feel like I let him down in that aspect. So sorry, Dad, if you're listening to this, but I feel like I should have given that more of a chance. But at the same time, I'm just sitting here wondering, like, I know we know your dad, right?
Yeah.
Ted and I know your dad, and I wonder if he was just working at Nebraska Furniture Mart and didn't have this side interest, side hustle that he had with real estate, where you would be right now.
Yeah.
Like, that's what that's what's kind of going through my mind, is like, what kind of an influence did that have directly or indirectly on your life? And we don't have to spend a whole bunch of time on this.
It was rocket fuel.
Yeah. Like, I mean, his dad had kind of nurtured him into that, and then he kind of started taking it and made it more of a big thing.
Yeah.
And real estate, he's always wanted it to be he's always had a passion for it. And his passion, I kind of took that over too. So now it's just kind of a big thing. Yeah.
Hey, to kind of switch back to what we're talking about, to put a bow on the show, can you tell us what network that will be airing on, and approximately when we can expect to see that?
Okay, so Warner Brothers took over the show. So I don't really remember which exact things they put it on. The talk is like they're trying to put it on Netflix, Hulu, the mainstream. They're trying to have the CW pick it up, kind of thing.
Is there a name for the show yet?
Yeah, Kids Who Flip.
Kids Who Flip.
Yep.
Okay.
So Ted's over here like, were you listening?
No, I was listening, but you like Kids Who Flip. I didn't know if that was the actual name.
Yeah.
Or if it was
No, I
just
didn't just come
scripting.
up with that.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
I didn't just come up with that.
Ted, whatever.
We'll make sure we share that in our social media when it comes out. So.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryleigh, what is the third pivotal thing that you have experienced here in the last 2.5 years since our last talk that has changed your life or is about to?
Yeah, about to. So when you put the little asterisks about the real estate license or being an agent, so I just recently passed my exam for the Iowa real estate salesperson's license. And the reason why you're probably thinking, oh, well, you're in Nebraska. Why would you get your Iowa license first? Because in Nebraska, the legal age that you're an adult is 19. So I'm only just turning 18 at the end of this month, and I was like, I don't want to wait another year to get my license. I want to start making an impact and helping our business right now. So I just told my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take the Iowa license exam, and we're going to do Iowa deals with me, my license in Iowa, and then you're going to have to wait another year for me to get my Nebraska license.
Who's your mentor with getting the real estate license?
Kim Stevens. Yep, she's been a huge impact on.
We've had Kim on.
She's so great.
Wow.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
we've had her
Love
on
Kim.
the podcast. Yeah, it's just great people. She's so good.
Kim and Tim. Yep.
Kim and Tim.
I love that.
Now, if I'm a younger person that's interested in getting a real estate license, how hard is the test?
Oh my gosh,
Like,
it's so hard.
Tell us about it. Like,
my
How much
gosh.
studying did you have to do? What was it like? Lead us up to kind of like the event.
Okay, so and Ted's over here laughing in his seat because he took the test a couple times.
like 7 or 8 times.
And that's the Nebraska one.
And I missed it by 1 point every time. 1 point, by the way.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't test you on your knowledge of real estate at all. It only tests you. It's like the reason why it's so hard is because there's tricks in there. There's a whole bunch of different words that you got to look out for that do not make the question, like the answer has nothing to do with the question. Like it's crazy, like how many tests, like tricks and whatever they put in there. So that's the main difficult thing. There's also a bunch of acronyms you got to remember and all this, crap that they put in there.
So did you go physically to a place and get like real estate instruction, or did you take it all online? Like, how did that work?
I took it online because the school that I chose to go through, their scheduling lined up with mine. The only thing was it was in Des Moines, and I wasn't going to go to Des Moines, 3 hours away to take a test that was 8 o'clock in the morning. Like,
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Or like I wasn't going to get an Airbnb and stay over there. So I did it online. They had hybrid. So there were people in class, and then there were also people online. There were a lot of people online, I would say. I mean, not really, but there was like 10-ish people in my class. So you have to take the pre-hour, like this is Iowa. I don't really know if it's different in every state, but Iowa's requirements are you have to pass the 60-hour pre-licensing. Some states require more hours, I think, for the pre-licensing. And then you have to take 3 other 12-hour classes. So I had to sit in through that all last month. And then at 17 years old, I'm able to sit in at the exam. I can't apply for it until I'm actually 18, because when I'm 18, that's when I can sign documents. And that's their big thing, is that at 17, you're like, you can't sign a document or, it's voidable.
So you're kind of like in purgatory with, like, you're in the awkward, like,
yes.
in between age when it's cool.
Well,
like,
because
17 sucks. It's
yeah.
It's kind of a worthless age.
Well,
like,
and
you can see NC-17 movies.
Of course you would come up with that.
That's the only thing I can remember at 17.
Well, and the other thing is, like, I was trying to make enough time because I had heard so many things about the exam. So I wanted to make sure there was enough time for me to, before I turned 18, and then after I had taken the classes. So my birthday is September 29th. I took all of my classes and stuff in August, like from the first week to the last week or whatever. And I didn't realize that you only had to take the 60-hour pre-licensing before those 12-hour classes or whatever to take the exam. I thought you needed to complete all of 4 of those classes. You only need those 3 other classes when you apply. So what happened was I took the 60-hour pre-licensing and had time in between before my next class had started, a few days in between. And then I was like, okay, let's take this exam. I want to see, like, if I can do it. And there's a state portion and national portion. And of course, I was like, okay, I'm feeling good about the state, not so good about the national, but we'll see. Passed the state. Failed the national by, like, a couple questions, like 2. And then...
It's the worst.
I know. Yeah. And then the next... I think I took it 2 days later. 3 days later.
I was just going to ask you because I don't know. Is there, like, you don't have to wait?
No, you don't have to wait. It was just the...
Just gotta pay the money.
The money,
Yeah.
it's $95. Or you have to make sure that the center... like the testing center has an available time for you.
Okay. I was going to ask, Ted, did you have ChatGPT take your test for you or no?
Not back then, no.
Okay.
But I did.
Because he would now, for sure.
Yeah.
But I definitely did pass my.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I did pass my broker's test on the first time. Just so you
Oh,
know.
that's good. That's good.
But you can't take any devices in. You can't have
No.
watches on. You have to clear out your pockets, and it all goes into a lockbox.
They are very serious about everything. So, yeah, then I took the test a couple days later, and then I passed the national by, like, a lot. And the reason why I failed the first time, I think, is because remember how I said there were so many tricks in there? What's interesting, I haven't really told many people about this, but I went in and I completed the national portion in, like, you get 2 hours, I think. I passed in, like, an hour.
No kidding.
Maybe 45 minutes I was done. And it was because I thought the questions were so easy. No, it was because there were so many tricks in there, and I didn't, like, I knew what I was talking about. I just wasn't reading the questions very carefully because I was like, these seem so easy, but no, it was because I had rushed through it kind of quickly. And then the second time I read questions, like every question each and every time, and I was like, this test is so much harder. And then I passed with more questions. I'm like, oh, maybe that's why, because there were so many tricks I didn't think about the first time around.
When you do your Nebraska test, there's a question that always comes up, and it's a court case.
Oh, really?
And it's a real court case, and Jerry Schlickburn's name is named in it because she sued another agent. And because another agent in town actually took one of her listings and then advertised it as a rental property, took deposits for it, and then was scamming people. And
What?
And so that guy's name's dropped, and her name's in there. And then every time I take a test,
Was it in there?
Her name is always in the test.
That's crazy.
With the other guy's name.
Well, and what's cool is that I found out that Iowa, the test is a lot harder than Nebraska. So one, I'll have an easier time, I feel like, with the test. The test is not easy, but like I'm saying, an easier time. The other thing is Nebraska has reciprocity, or
Yep.
The rules where you can, if you have your national, or if you have your license in another state, you can either you only have to take the state test or something like that. So that'll be easy for me too. And also I found out that I'm like one of the only, I'll be one of like a couple in our brokerage who have both my Iowa and Nebraska license as well, so that'll be very helpful because
especially when
of referrals and stuff.
You get leads in that nobody else can handle.
Unfortunately, for my first year, I'll have to refer every Nebraska lead I get.
But you get paid on those.
Yeah.
And one thing that you can say is because you'll have your license officially the day of your birthday or next day.
I'm gonna try to get it like the day of.
Yeah, you'll be the
if
young.
You're not too hungover.
You can say it right then. I would take a picture and the youngest realtor in the whole state of Iowa today.
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Bragging rights.
I was gonna do that on my social media, but I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
So, okay, question for you on the topic of getting your license. What are you hoping you do with that?
Basically help our business. Since my dad, he doesn't have a license, I'm going to try to help buy and sell these houses with my license, and then also give people another opportunity, because a lot of people don't want to go with the realtor when they sell or buy or want to list their home, you know? So we'll give my dad as an option as okay, well, we're also cash buyers. We're also investors. We help you out of your situation, you know? So that's another thing.
I'm kind of springing this on you, but what's a typical day for Ryleigh Eckles now? What you graduated? You graduated high school this year. So May, June?
Yeah.
This year. What's life like out of high school?
It's kind of hard because it's at a standstill because of the whole fact that I don't have my license yet, but I'm passed. I already know I'm gonna get it. But after high school, I took a few trips.
Yeah.
You know.
Go anywhere fun?
Yeah, I went to Texas, and I went to Kansas City, Missouri for a concert with my dad. And then I went flown by myself to Washington, D.C. to see my uncle. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, just a few trips. I think I've taken more trips during this summer than a whole year, in school. But
do you think you're going to go backpacking in South America or Europe
yeah,
or anything
for sure.
like that?
Yeah, of course she is. This is a common theme where people are crazy successful.
Yeah, and then they go and help out people in Guatemala.
Yeah, literally some of the most successful people we've ever interviewed. They're when I was 19 or right out of high school or 20, I went and traveled Europe on $600 or maxed out my credit cards just to travel and get out my system before I'm married and had kids and whatnot. So. But hey, great interview. I love where you're going. I love the progress that you've made since episode 44.
Thank
you. We're going into this, we knew exactly what we were expecting.
Oh yeah,
and you just home runned it. So and I'm really glad that we had that. With that comparable too. That 2.5 years ago you're here with your dad, and now you're here as a young woman and growing and doing so much more with your business and your life. So that's just so awesome. But with that, let's get into today's OT with Owen and Ted.
I have a one-off here I want to ask, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So this isn't part of our standard set of questions, but I am curious, knowing what you know as a almost 18-year-old woman here about life and the world, if you could live anywhere outside of Omaha, Nebraska, where would you plant roots or at least explore?
I always want to go out of the country. Whenever people ask me this question, I always say, oh, well, I want to live here, here, and here. One of my main countries one of the main places that I want to live is Japan. And mainly because of my background, because I'm 25% Japanese. So kind of want to learn a little bit about the heritage and the culture. So yeah, that's the main dream of mine, is to go out there. And if not live there, just travel out there to see it.
My daughter, my 16-year-old, is fascinated with
Japanese culture.
Japanese culture. We went to Japantown in San Francisco about 2 years ago. So you can take her with you as your
for sure.
understudy. Maybe teach her some things about real estate because she won't listen to me anymore. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming here. The first question I have for you, Ryleigh, is what's the title or subject of your first book going to be about?
I'm not sure on the title because there's always creative things to...
Editors have a little say in that.
Oh, yeah. But I know it would definitely be about... I want to put my journey in there, and hopefully it would inspire other people younger. But it would target the younger generation who are trying to set up a successful life for themselves. I don't mean specifically money, but just set up, I guess financial freedom to live the life that you kind of want to live. And I'm in the journey of that right now. I'm in the process of trying to set that self up for myself and for my kids when I'm older, So it'll be mostly about my journey, my experiences, what I've learned from it, everything to help inspire the next generation coming up.
Was it that Dave Ramsey always says, live like no one else so you can live like no one else?
Yeah, or Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln says that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, everything gets credited.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I was like, okay.
I read that on the internet.
That's funny.
That's Abraham Lincoln quote.
There we go. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, so technically that wasn't Owen's first question. That was his second question. So now let me get into the third question here. If you could interview anyone in the world today in your podcast, who would it be and what's one question you want to ask?
One of my favorite podcasts I listen to is called The Action Academy by Brian Lubin. It's been a dream of wanting to be on his podcast, but Brian Lubin, he is very, very inspiring, and he started off at a younger age like me. Not quite as young, but I would ask him, like, what he would do if he was in my situation, like my age. Like, he's so successful right now, and he's, I think, close to 30, maybe? I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but he started off very, very young. And I want to ask him, like, what would you do if you are 17 again? Would you change anything? Because he's already successful. Would he change? Would he start sooner, or,
I'm sure you could just hit him up on Instagram and get on the podcast.
I've tried to hit him up on Instagram,
Yeah.
but he's just too successful for us. He's backpacking in Africa.
Oh, my God. Okay. I'm pretty sure they have Wi-Fi somewhere in Africa.
Yeah.
So, Brian Lubin, get off your butt and answer Ryleigh's.
Well, and I know somebody who
here.
went on his podcast like a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be on there so bad.
Then you need to ask them who the producer was that they
Yeah,
spoke
I
to.
know. They're on a trip right now together, I guess. So.
All right. Well, Ted is going to look into this, and as will Aiden over there, and we're going to find a way into Brian Lubin's podcast.
Oh yeah.
Aiden, you're on it, right? Aiden says yes. He's got this.
He doesn't.
No problem.
He doesn't know how to talk in his mic, but he said, yeah, he's
Yeah.
on it.
That's so funny.
Okay, next question for you. This is a deep one, and I encourage you to put a little bit of thought into this because you've lived a long life.
Oh, for sure. Just such a long life, like 50-year-old Owen.
Exactly. Unfortunately, we're at we're at the end of it, and you have somebody walking up to the podium to give a eulogy for you. What are they going to say, and who is it?
Why'd you have to say it like that? We're at the end of it, the end of your road.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't sugarcoat things.
Yeah.
Ted does.
I haven't thought about this question before, but when I'm thinking about it, it's like I want to have my kid, or kids, plural, I don't know, do it. Only because it's like I am trying to set up my life to be successful for not only me, but like my kids, because my dad, he's working his butt off trying to set a good life for me, and I'm trying to do the same for my kids, even though they're not here yet. It's like, okay, right now it's setting it up for me. Then once I have a kid, if I decide to, it's like, well, then I want to set that up for them too, because my dad taught me, like, he spent his whole life trying to do it for me, so why wouldn't I do it for my kids? So I want to get their perspective of me. I want to make sure that I leave behind something that they would, appreciate and want to take forth and continue. That's how I want to kind of get out of things,
That's a better answer than we've had from most older people that are on this podcast. So well done on that.
Well, I mean, you got to kind of think that you never know when the end is.
Exactly.
I mean, my biological father was 17 when he died.
Oh, really?
What?
Yeah, and so I mean, you just never know.
We've spent thousands of hours together, and I never knew that.
Never knew that? Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, so you just never know.
Wow.
You never know when that moment is.
Huh.
Yeah.
I remember coming up to 17. I was like, well, my dad died at this age, so I always thought maybe I'll die at this age.
Yeah, my dad used to say something kind of like that because his dad died of cancer when my dad was like 14 years old or younger age, and his dad was so young. He was like 40-something-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like my grandma told my dad to like stop saying you're gonna die at that age, because if you say it, it's like
you speak it into existence.
You're speaking into existence. So my dad now, he says, I'm gonna live to 150. He says that, and he's trying to be genuine about it, because like our technology is kind of getting there. So it's like even if he doesn't live to 150, he's gonna live longer than a lot of people who say, oh, I'm gonna you know.
This is crazy because when I was growing up, my dad's father, so my paternal grandfather, he died he was either 60 or 62, and I vividly remember this. I think I was 11 years old, and he died of a massive heart attack. He was a big like cattle guy, like a cattle farmer. And he was at the sale barn in Red Oak, Iowa, and he was sitting there having lunch with his buddies, and he just fell over dead. Like 60, 62 years old. Like, you know, thin. He wasn't like overweight. He wasn't like no other, you know, nowadays you're like, oh yeah, that guy's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
Like, no, you would never guess it other than
That's crazy.
heart disease. So he falls over dead. And I remember my dad, like growing up, after that, my dad was like, you were eating too much salt. You know, he like kind of threw out the salt shaker. And then we had that horrible potassium chloride salt substitute crap on our table. And it was like, oh my God, this is the worst. Like it's not good. I mean, I don't know if it's made any improvements, but like it was a mainstay on our dinner table every night. And
Well,
then,
you're looking good for almost.
yeah,
For
thank
almost,
you.
you know.
Yeah, I got one foot in the grave, the other one on a banana peel is what, you know, I like to say. But it's so funny how like words shape you when you're growing up, right? Because my dad believed he was going to die at, you know, my dad's 79 now. He was like, and I don't know if he ever said this explicitly to me, but I know that he thought he was not going to last much longer than his 60s. I know that. I think he thought that he was hereditary and he was just gonna he was gonna have heart issues and so I kind of like absorbed some of that growing up. You know what I mean? So it's like, even though like I don't identify with that, but I mean I was like yeah, I could see that. So I kind of have this fatalistic a little bit, not as much as he does or maybe his dad does. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
like my dad's dad had explicitly had said that he wasn't going to live past 45 or whatever he said. And then he died like a few months before 45 or something.
And
that is so wild.
I had 2 dates in my head. It was 17 years old, and then it was when my first son was turning 11 months old, because I was 11 months old on the nose when my dad died. It was like my 11-month birthday. And so that was like, I was like, oh, when I have a kid, I'm going to die before my kid gets to know me. Like, it was just in my head. Yeah. And then as soon as I passed that, I'm like, oh, man, I'm going to live to 100.
I don't know how we got on this topic, but it's like
either,
very interesting to
eulogy.
me.
It is.
Yeah. Eulogy, that's right.
It is interesting, though. And it just illustrates that words matter.
Yeah.
And what you say to...
Manifesting things is like very important. You got to...
Especially for impressionable minds that are not, you know, like they haven't been through life's ringer yet, right? So yeah, I think so the message here is be careful what you say around your kids, because they hear it, and they listen to it, and even if they pretend like they don't, they hear you saying the things you say. So be positive and all that rah-rah stuff.
Yeah.
Rah-rah stuff.
Yeah.
Rah-rah.
Okay, so the next question we have is, what mentor in your life has had the biggest impact on you, and how have they influenced your personal life or your business?
Of course, you all know this answer. My father, my dad.
Well, that's going to be a proud dad moment when he
I
hears that.
know.
Of course.
Well, of course, he's been there every step of the way. He has taught me everything I known. Like, also, another thing that I don't give him credit for is his mindset, because exactly like we were talking about with the whole death thing. I don't know why. But because he had said, you know, he went the wrong way of his dad. He didn't say that he was going to die at this age and whatever. He said, I'm going to live to this age. But he has a very good mindset about things, which has kind of changed over these past few years. His mindset, very, very good. It shapes my mind quite a bit, especially since in my developing years, you know, these past few years, it's made a huge impact on how I treat things, how I make decisions on things, and me maturing about things mainly comes from my dad. So, and learning from different situations, that's another thing. He kind of tries to set a very good example about things so that I can grow up to not, you know, make those same mistakes again, or not just like in houses and stuff, but because he teaches me not to make the same housing mistakes, but just a whole bunch of different things that he has gone through in life, and then he shows to me.
Your dad is a great, great guy. Like, I have never met, and this, okay, I know a lot of people say this, but I really mean it. I have never heard one person say a bad word about your dad. Like, he is a good dude to everybody he's ever met, and He's just a likable, fun guy, great attitude.
He's very realistic too.
Realistic and down to earth. And yeah, shout out to Nate. I mean, you did a great job raising your daughter, who's in our studio today.
I know. Which he doesn't.
Fun fact: he has no idea that you are being interviewed today on our podcast.
So I can't wait to surprise him.
When we started playing,
Hi, Dad.
When we started playing this weeks ago, we said, "Don't tell Nate."
Well, fun stuff. Okay, last question for you, Ryleigh. If you're into this, if people like what they're hearing today and they want to find out more about you and your real estate activities and life in general, how can they reach out to you?
The main thing is I'm running our social media. My dad and I have a business social media page, urban_firebird. And then since I'm getting my license pretty soon, I just made a real estate page. It's my name, Ryleigh.real.estate. Can
you spell Ryleigh? Because there's a lot of weird spellings out there.
Mine's the weirdest, I feel. Okay. Ryleigh. Very weird spelling, but yeah. My dad wanted me to be different, but still have a name that everyone has. So
yeah, so you have to pronounce it literally for every transaction you ever do in your life.
Exactly.
Okay, Ryleigh, Ryleigh_.
No, Ryleigh.real.estate. Because when I typed in real estate as one word, it did not look right, so I had to separate it.
So Ted will link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Actually, our producer,
Ted,
our editor,
Ted will personally link to this in the show notes.
The editor will. John, there you go.
And my personal page is just Ryleigh_Eckles, but I don't really accept a lot of people on that because it's just, But that's another one of my social media.
And you have a fitness page.
I do have a fitness page, Ryleigh.lifting. That is another big thing in my life is that I go to the gym every day and
getting my flex on.
Yeah. No, but so yeah, I have a lot of Instagram pages. I just realized now. But I also have a Facebook page.
What's your
Ryleigh
Instagram handle?
For which one?
The ones you want people hearing this to see.
All the ones that I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
If you search any of those or the links in the description, whatever. And then my dad runs our Urban Firebird Facebook page. So, yeah, that's mainly all the socials I can think of right now. Oh, and our YouTube is Urban Firebird Home Solutions.
Urban Firebird Home Solutions. Okay. Love it.
Ryleigh, thank you so much for coming on. Totally didn't disappoint. Great content. Love everything you got going on. I mean, we covered so much. I mean, the house flip, the TV show, the getting your license, the weightlifting, the wrestling, just graduating. I mean, like there was so much there, and I encourage anybody listening to this, if you have kids and you want them to get more involved, and they start off like Ryleigh, you were like what 10, 11 years old when you got into this.
I mean, my whole life, but 10 was when I started taking it real serious,
Definitely, like, the episode 44. Get them listening to episode 44 because we really focus on her younger years now. But, now that you're growing up and we're seeing what you're doing next, that's so awesome. And can you come back in 100 episodes and do this all over? So 244, we can just, keep this trend. We'll bookmark it right in the calendar.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, but, yeah, thank you so much. With that, Owen Dashner, we see us out.
On behalf of REIA Radio, Aiden Bear, and Ted Kosh, I'm Owen Dashner. You've been listening to Ryleigh, Life Lessons from a 17-year-old Real Estate Mogul, Eckles. Signing off.
Ryleigh, thank you so much for coming in today.
Yeah, of course.
Absolute great content. I mean, totally disappointing. I look forward to having you. Will you come back another 100 episodes?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Did you say totally disappointed?
Totally didn't disappoint.
Oh. Okay, let's redo that. Because I heard totally disappoint. I feel like
is that what you heard?
It kind of sounded like it, I guess.
Yeah. Let's redo it.
Jory, by the way, and you edit that, and if I didn't say disappoint, I want you to cut that section just so I can send it to Owen.
Emphasize it if he did.
And I mean, totally disappointing. I look forward to having you. Totally disappointing. I look forward to having you.